What I'm going to show you tonight, you see that right there? What I'm going to show you tonight is crazy as hell. I didn't know. I didn't know this. I didn't know this. So now that James Finch has been acquitted, not guilty, of course, he's launched his first civil lawsuit, and it is against the city of Lynn Haven and Vickie Gaynor, who is the city manager, personally. As usual, WMBB is already lying to you, mostly by omission. I'll show you. Here's what it's really about, and I'll prove it because I'm going to read to you the actual legal complaint, the lawsuit. It's called a complaint. How do I know? Because I'm Bernie the attorney. That's how I know. Oh, we're going to get him for lying. You can go, evidently you can go to prison in America now for lying. Unless, of course, I don't want to get into it. I just can't believe I live in this crazy ass world. What I'm going to tell you is insane. All right, in a nutshell, the city of Lynn Haven has a new policy that was never voted on. It was just created out of the blue by Vickie Gaynor, the city manager. And the new policy says that James Finch's company, Phoenix Construction, is not qualified to win any bids, any contracts in the city of Lynn Haven. He's not qualified. Now, the city of Lynn Haven has always used the DOT standards, Department of Transportation standards. But Vickie Gaynor changed that after James Finch was indicted in March of 2021. So a few months after that, you remember, after Sheriff Tommy Ford told the FBI that the whistleblowers were the criminals and gave the FBI all of the evidence that did not stand up, the city of Lynn Haven, Vickie Gaynor, felt empowered to create her own out-of-the-blue policy that said Phoenix Construction is all of a sudden no longer qualified. And I don't mean because they think Finch might be a crook. I don't mean that. What I mean is she changed the policy unilaterally. Here's what it is. So the city has always said if you meet the DOT standards, you're qualified to bid for contracts. Well, James Finch is not only DOT qualified, they have pre-approved him for $250 million. He has the most qualifications of any contractor in this area, by far. But here's what Vickie Gaynor did. Are you ready? I'll tell you. I'm going to shorten this up so you can hear exactly, and then I'm going to prove it to you. She came up with her own policy of why that's not good enough in Lynn Haven. But I don't want, once we get the flow going, I don't want to interrupt the flow. So let me thank two sponsors right away.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome. Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777.
All right. So the city of Lynn Haven says that Phoenix Construction does not have the qualifications, does not have the equipment, does not have the experience, is no longer allowed to bid for contracts. Not because the city voted for it, the city commission, because in 2021, Vickie Gaynor, the city manager, made her own policy, and here it is. Anybody who bids, this is my understanding, and I'm going to read you the complaint. Anybody who bids must prove that they have a paving machine and that they have done paving work at least 3 times in the past 2 years. Phoenix Construction does one thing they don't have is a paving machine. Now, raise your hand if you think James Finch can afford, the Phoenix Construction could buy a paving machine. Well, they knew that. Vickie was smart enough to know that. I say they, but I should say she, because it's her own policy. So they said, well, what if he buys one? Well, then we'll say, not only do you have to have a paving machine, but you must have used it at least 3 times in the last 2 years. And besides that, he's going to prison. And look, they're nasty, these people. They say worse things, too. I've said it before, I'll tell you. They thought James would be dead by now. So to hell with him. He's had some pretty serious health issues. They thought he was going to be dead. And they thought Mayor Anderson was going to be in prison forever. How do I know? They told me so. These are nasty people. So, nothing's ever going to happen if we make up our own little policy. Well, it has. They're going to get subpoenaed and put in depositions under oath. Do you see why they dragged out James Finch's prosecution for as long as they could? Do you see why they tried him twice on a bullshit bribery charge? Because as soon as the jury found him not guilty, they knew they were going to have to answer to this. Think about what I just said. She made a policy that said all of a sudden Phoenix Construction's not qualified because they figured out one piece of machinery Phoenix Construction didn't have. And then they said, well, if he buys one, we'll say he had to have done 3 paving jobs in the past 2 years. And that way we can keep Phoenix Construction out. Now, what does that cost the city? So far, about $1 million. You're going to see the lawsuit here in just a second. There was a big job that was that a bunch of companies bid for in 2021. Phoenix Construction was the low bidder at $2.7 million. The next lowest bid was over $3 million. So Phoenix Construction won the bid. Well, the city said, we've changed our mind. We're going to put it back out for bid. And so what they did, they said it's a different job now. And they removed 5 streets from that job. So now it's a smaller job. And they rebid it. But this time, they had the new policy that said Phoenix isn't qualified, even if they're the low bidder. So the city ended up awarding the contract for $3.3 million without those 5 roads in it. So later on, when they did the 5 roads, the total amount more, remember, Phoenix Construction bid for $2.7 million in 2021. The city paid $900,000, almost $1 million more for the same work Finch would have done for $2.7 million. They ended up paying $3.6 million for it. That's how much the city manager, Vickie Gaynor, hates James Finch. Is that amazing? You know, I keep hearing this story, and it's I'm gonna have to show you the meeting actually one day. Do you want to know the craziest thing? I sort of think, and what I'm going to tell you right now is everything I've told you so far is in the complaint and verifiable. That was data. But this is a guess. I think the city was trying to frame James Finch before he was indicted on the bullshit charges. Forgive me if you've got kids around. I just can't take it. So, do you know Vickie Gaynor sent him a check? The city manager wrote James Finch a check for work he had done. And then she sent another check, like a duplicate. Now, if you send me 2 checks, I'm cashing them both, okay? But Finch brought the check back, of course. Said, hey, I think you sent me a duplicate check. She sent it again. She sent it a third time. Maybe he'll cash this one. Let's watch him. Maybe he'll cash this check. And that's when he went up to the city council. You guys stop sending me checks for the job I've already done. That's the city manager, Vickie Gaynor. She's already cost the city nearly $1 million by saying Phoenix Construction is not qualified to do the job. All right, let's take a look at what WMBB has to say, though. Yeah, let's do that first. All right, here we go. This is the headline from tonight. Lynn Haven sued by local business owner. Now, they had a video. This was on TV. They had a video. But it looks to me like they took the TV broadcast down. I might be wrong. Check me. Live check me. Fact check Thompson. But it looks to me, look, this is not the video. They just put a picture of Finch. The video, I'll show you, is shoved all the way to the, shoot. The video is shoved all the way to the bottom. Look. Hold on, what am I doing wrong here? All right, so look at this. There's the video, but you can't play it. And if you look here, it says that this was posted at 4:50 p.m. and it was updated at 6:36 p.m. I could be wrong about this, so please double check me and tell me if they took the video down. Now that James Finch is a free man and he's scribbling up civil lawsuits, people are being a lot more careful around here. All right, let's take a look at this. So I told you what the lawsuit's about, and then I'll prove it, as I'll show it to you. Brady Calhoun again. All right. Last week, after he was acquitted of federal bribery charges, a local business owner promised to file lawsuits stemming from the case. The first of these was filed today. James Finch, the owner of Phoenix Construction, is suing the city of Lynn Haven and city manager Vickie Gaynor for tortious interference and breach of contract. The lawsuit states that Phoenix was excluded from bidding projects on Lynn Haven projects after Finch and Gaynor had a heated argument in the summer of 2019. Finch's attorneys wrote that the confrontation stemmed from multiple checks being sent to Lynn Haven, Phoenix from Lynn Haven for the same work. Vickie Gaynor kept sending James Finch giant checks for the work already that was paid for some reason. Is that crazy as hell? All right, so the lawsuit says Finch accused Gaynor of being negligent with city funds. 1 year after that confrontation, the city commission voted against a property development that Finch planned to build for 90 units, the lawsuit states. Finch annexed the Jake's Landing project into the city after speaking with Gaynor about the plan, the lawsuit states. Then after the commission voted against the plan, he attempted to de-annex the property back into Bay County. The commission denied his request. He attempted to. What they mean to say is he asked the city if they would. I want you to pay close attention at how WMBB does its propaganda. He didn't attempt to de-annex the property like anybody else. He made a request to the city and the city denied it by voting against it. Now it says Finch sued over the issue according to the lawsuit, and Finch was eventually permitted to build the project as requested. Oh, wow. He won another one. Have you ever thought that maybe if you look at it closely like I do, holy shnikes, the guy's right. The lawsuit says, however, following the dispute, Finch and his companies began to experience retribution and retaliation from the city and Vickie Gaynor. In June of 2021, so just about 3 months after Finch was indicted on bogus charges, the city threw out all the bids for a project known as the Legislative Roadway Repairs. Phoenix was the lowest bidder at $2.7 million. The next closest bid was Roberts & Roberts with a $3 million bid. So when Finch won the bid, when Finch won the bid, Vickie Gaynor and the city said, we're going to rebid it. And that's when she changed the policy without anybody voting on it that said Phoenix Construction is no longer qualified for any jobs. After these bids were thrown out, new restrictions were put in place by the city's engineering firm. Wait a minute. Panhandle Engineering on the companies making bids on the project. I just met with Chris Forehand. I just met him a few hours ago. Damn it, I wish I would have seen this because I would have asked him. Well, he talks to me, so I'll ask him. The city now required the bidder to perform all paving activities with its own labor equipment. So this was Vickie Gaynor's policy, but the lawsuit is saying that Chris Forehand, the city's contracted engineer, came up with this policy? What? That says Phoenix Construction's not qualified? The new policy is this. The only companies that can now win it used to just be if the DOT approved you, right? And DOT has the highest Phoenix Construction has the highest qualifications with DOT. Phoenix is pre-approved for $250 million. But I didn't know, Chris. I wish I would have known this so I could have asked him. I'll ask tomorrow. So Chris Forehand and Vickie Gaynor came up with this policy that now only companies that have a paving machine, and they've used the paving machine at least 3 times in the last 2 years. Brand new policy that they made up. The city of Lynn had never used that before. But again, Finch was now facing an indictment and a serious health issue, so they didn't figure it'd be a problem. You ever heard that the Phoenix is rising from the ashes? It's happening right here, right now. I'm blown away. The city now required the bidder to perform all paving activities with its own labor and equipment. Think about that. The city now required the bidder to perform all paving activities with its own labor and equipment. What? Never been done before in the history of the world. Oh my God, I cannot wait for people to be put under oath about this. Okay, so the lawsuit says there is only one bidder from the original bid who could not satisfy this requirement. So Chris Forehand then, according to this, and if Chris tells me tomorrow I did not come up with that, that was all Vickie's idea, then I'll let you know. Finch's lawyers argue that this change meant Lynn Haven taxpayers paid more money for the project, which now included less work, and that the city broke a contract with Phoenix that required the city to award the company with all of its half-cent sales tax-funded projects. So the city ended up paying almost $1 million more to get all the work done. Paid $3.6 million for the work when Finch offered to do it for $2.7 million. But the city has a new policy that says Phoenix isn't good. They don't have the equipment to do the work. The plaintiff has suffered irreparable injury by being excluded from projects it was capable of performing, and additionally by being discriminated against by the city of Lynn Haven without just cause. The plaintiff will continue to suffer said irreparable injury if an injunction is not granted. So the lawsuit is asking a judge to lift this policy that Chris Forehand and Vickie Gaynor created, according to the lawsuit. The lawsuit is asking the judge in the case to end Lynn Haven's current bidding system and award damages and attorney fees to Phoenix. Vickie Gaynor declined to comment today, citing the ongoing lawsuit. I can't make any comments about this because there's an ongoing lawsuit. I don't think this video is playing. Let me look at your comments. All right, so that's that story. Now let's take a look at the actual lawsuit itself. But first, I need to see your comments, see if you... All right. Holy moly. Wow, I'm looking at all your comments. This is incredible. This is incredible. It's Scorpio season, huh, baby? So, ever since Miss Sarah Moon told me it's Scorpio season, all of a sudden a bunch of truth has been coming out. That's crazy. All right. Can anybody please tell me if that video is working? Go to WMBB.com, look up that video, and tell me if that video, or did WMBB take the video portion down? All right, I'll check again in a moment, but let's take a look now. You want to see the actual lawsuit? I think it's only like 16 pages, so I'll be able to get through it relatively quickly right after this.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm El Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at PCAirRepair.com.
All right, here we go. Let's look at the lawsuit. This is amazing. I cannot believe this. It feels so dirty, you know. People are saying, why can't we just move on? Enough, you know, this has gone on too long. It's hurt the community too long. There are families who are not happy because their loved ones are being criticized. And it's time for healing, is what I'm being told. Meanwhile, the city of Lynn Haven taxpayers have paid almost $1 million more for a project because Vickie Gaynor says Phoenix Construction is not capable of doing the work. Evidently based on Chris Forehand's suggestion. And I'm just saying that that's what the lawsuit says because that has not been confirmed to me by Mr. Forehand. but I'll certainly ask. Unbelievable. I just came. Here it is. Phoenix Construction is the plaintiff, filed today versus the city of Lynn Haven and Vickie Gaynor individually. Initial complaint. So the beginning of this, we don't have to read because this sets up the jurisdiction of the court and all that. You know, she's the city manager at all times, the city, all that kind of stuff. Here is what the plaintiff, James Finch, is alleging as facts. Now, Vickie Gaynor is going to have to hire an attorney and respond to this within 20 days. And the city, I think the city, I'm not sure if the city needs a 6-month notice on this or not, or if they've got to respond within 20 days as well. I think they've got to respond within 20 days because they're asking for an injunction. All right, let's see. Phoenix is a local construction company. Okay, Phoenix has been doing business. We know this, successfully completed. Okay, we can get through all this. Half-cent sales tax. So basically what this is about is James Finch was instrumental in getting the half-cent sales tax passed through the Contractors Association. And he argues, or they argue that, and everybody testified to this under oath, by the way, they argued that because the half-cent sales tax generated, I think, like $1.8 million or $2 million a year for the city of Lynn Haven, that it saved taxpayers any tax increases. All right. So I'm not going to get all into the half-cent sales tax. Okay, here we go. Confrontation with Vickie Gaynor. On or about summer 2019, Vickie Gaynor and James Finch engaged in a heated argument related to Finch's charge that Gaynor had negligently paid invoices stemming from Hurricane Michael-related storm. So in other words, Vickie Gaynor kept sending James Finch a giant check for work that he had already been paid for. Almost. Now that's a fact. And here's a thought. All right. Almost as though they thought he might cash it and they could arrest him. He kept bringing the check back to the city saying, what the hell are you guys doing? Specifically in this conversation, Finch advised Gaynor that his company had received 3 payments for the same work. Why would she do that? Why would she send 3 payments to Phoenix Construction? Already been paid for. As such, Finch accused Gaynor of being negligent with city funds. How many other people have been paid 3 times for the same job? Is that normal? Based on information and belief, this dispute was the true provenance of Gaynor's ill will towards the plaintiff. Okay, so that's what James Finch evidently says he thinks that's what really pissed Vickie Gaynor off. And one thing we know about Vickie Gaynor, if she gets mad at you, she might have you arrested. Maybe. Does anybody else feel that way? Has anybody else had that happen to them? Oh, you're going to find out soon. Okay, Jake's Landing. In November 2020, this is about 4 months before Finch was indicted, but after Margot Anderson was removed by Sheriff Tommy Ford and the FBI because they worked together. So this is right in between the 2 indictments when they persecuted the whistleblowers in 2020. Okay. So Finch's company purchased property on County Road 389 with the intent to develop a small neighborhood on it. Finch had discussions with Vickie Gaynor, city manager, regarding the number of residential units that the city would approve on the property. The indication was the city would allow 90 units on the property, which would make okay, so I can build 90 homes. Okay, it's worth it. Well, I'll buy it. Because the city was selling property that it wasn't planning to use. And Finch won the bid. with the intent of building those homes. After the discussions between Finch and Gaynor, the property was annexed into the city of Lynn Haven. So she's decided they won't keep it. The city's planning board approved a development order for 90 units on the property. The property was annexed. So I guess it was bought and then it was brought into Lynn Haven. Okay. So it wasn't in Lynn Haven when they sold it. I don't get that. The city commission voted against the development order for 90 units. Oh. So he bought it with the expectation that he'd be able to build 90 homes on it. And after he bought it, it was annexed into Lynn Haven. The city commission voted nope. Psych. Because the development would have only one means of ingress and egress. Not only almost had that mic problem again. After being advised by Bay County that 90 units were permitted if the property were in the county, Finch proposed to Okay, so Finch says, well, hell, then just put it back into Bay County. And the city planning board approved that idea, but the city commission said, nope. Thereafter, Finch and Associates sued Lynn Haven, alleging these actions were violating Florida law and that they amounted to arbitrary and capricious treatment by a municipal agency. Following the suit, the parties resolved the case and Finch was permitted. They just made him jump through a few more hoops is all. You would think somebody who's done as much work for the city of Lynn. It's incredible. However, following the dispute, Finch and his companies began to experience retribution and retaliation. So now Vickie Gaynor is really pissed. She told him no, and he challenged it and won. Oh, that'll piss her off if you know. Ultimately culminating in the city repudiating its ongoing half-cent sales tax exclusive construction contract with Finch and altering the bidding criteria so as to exclude Finch from being a qualifying bidder. So Vickie Gaynor was so mad that she and Chris Forehand evidently created a new policy without it being voted on by the commission that you're only qualified now if you can prove that you have a paving machine and that you've paved at least 3 paving jobs over the past 2 years. Just makes the one thing up that carves Phoenix Construction out as a qualified bidder. All right, so these are the improper bidding procedures. All right, so in June of 2021, the city opened bids for the project known as the Lynn Haven Legislative Roadway Repairs. When the project was originally bid, the bidding documents required that the prime contractor self-perform 75% of the work with its own labor and equipment. Normal. And, oh, look at that. Phoenix Construction won the bid at 2.7. The next lowest bid was $3 million. Although the Phoenix bid represented a savings to the city of nearly $300,000, the city elected to throw out all the bids and re-advertise the project for a rebid at a later date. Despite being the lowest bidder, Phoenix was not selected to perform the contract work. The stated reason for this was that the project was over budget. The bid form had been structured in such a way that the city could deduct areas of work to fit the project within their budget, but instead of doing that, the city just said, to hell with it, we reject all the bids. The project, as rebid, so they rebid it out after they said, nope, Phoenix doesn't get to win that. We're going to start from scratch. And so they took out 5 roads. They made it a smaller project. As part of the rebidding process, the city tasked the engineer for the project, Panhandle Engineering, Chris Forehand, with reducing the scope of the project so that the new bids would be within the city's budget. So in September of 2021, the city opened bids for the rebidding of the project. The plaintiff, James Finch, was unable to bid this time because Vickie Gaynor and Chris Forehand changed the bidding criteria, even though Finch is the highest qualified DOT bidder in the area. And so with five fewer roads to work on, smaller job, Roberts and Roberts wins at $2.8 million. But Finch would have done it with the extra roads for $2.7 million. But the city said he's not qualified anymore. The lowest bid was received by the city for $2.8, even though Panhandle had reduced the scope of work at the direction of the city. Holy smokes. As a result, the city spent $87,000 more than they would have for the full scope of work if they had elected to award Phoenix the project originally. The city's resulting contract was for more money and less work than the plaintiff's original proposal. City taxpayers received less work and paid more money for the project. They later on had to do the 5 roads for like $600,000. Bottom line is, what Finch would have done for $2.7 million, the city ended up doing for $3.6 million, almost $1 million more. As part of the rebid process, the city also directed Chris Forehand, Panhandle Engineering, to change the qualification requirements for bidding the project. As part of the rebidding process, Chris Forehand, Panhandle Engineer, changed the qualification requirements to be even more restrictive, requiring the prime contractor to perform all paving activities with its own labor and equipment. So they just made it up. There was only one bidder from the original bid who could not satisfy this requirement, and that's Phoenix Construction. This was a deliberate attempt to exclude Phoenix from bidding on the project. Do you think this is raise your hand if you think this is a strong lawsuit, or do you think it's a weak lawsuit? Wow. The city has maintained exclusionary qualification requirements for other projects they have bid out since that time in a blatant effort to exclude Phoenix from bidding on projects. So with all subsequent bids, God knows how much more taxpayers have had to pay because Vickie Gaynor won't let Phoenix Construction, with the help of Chris Forehand, they won't let Phoenix Construction bid for jobs. Given that plaintiff James Finch did not own its own paving equipment, but routinely subcontracted this work, that's the way it's always been done. He would just hire somebody to do that part of the job. Phoenix was automatically excluded from qualifying. The city and Vickie Gaynor knew that Phoenix did not own its paving equipment at the time of this change. Defendant Vickie Gaynor knew that Phoenix did not own the paving equipment, so did the city. And based on information and belief, this change in bidding criteria was designed to make James Finch, Phoenix Construction, ineligible to bid on projects in direct violation of the contract at issue in the matter. And based on information and belief, it was done due to personal animosity between Vickie Gaynor and James Finch. Tortious interference. All right. Same thing. He'd always done work there. He's been qualified. He's done good work. She's the city manager. He's a contractor. So here is what Finch is asking for. This is an action for declaratory relief pursuant to Florida law. Florida statutes govern local bids and contracts for construction works involving Florida counties and municipalities at all times. Okay, so it's all within the jurisdiction. As such, James Finch is presumed to be qualified to perform the work, as he's done for how long? Additionally, Florida law states that the project is to be awarded based on the price. So Finch, remember, had the lowest bid. The contract must, this is the law, this is Florida statute. It doesn't say should. It doesn't say ought to. It doesn't say flip a coin. It doesn't say ask Vickie Gaynor and Chris Forehand. It says the contract must. That's the law. Be awarded to the lowest qualified and responsive bidder in accordance with the applicable county or municipal ordinance or district resolution in accordance with applicable contract documents. You get the gist of that. Despite this very clear requirement, the city has continued to award jobs to other entities besides Phoenix Construction when Phoenix was the original lowest qualified bidder. Phoenix Construction, James Finch, alleges that the city's actions in regard to rejecting his bids previously contracted to Finch arbitrarily violates the command of this statute section. Finch, Phoenix Construction, believes this statute is being violated by Lynn Haven and is suffering debt. Well, Lynn Haven's already, hey, taxpayers. Hold on. It's already cost you at least $900,000. You say, I'm happy to pay it. I don't like Finch. You say, I'm happy to pay it. I love Vickie Gaynor. You say, well, we're happy to pay the taxes. Chris Forehand's my best friend. What? I swear to God, I deal with people like this. But what if the city's breaking the law? What if the city is saying, no, the most qualified, lowest bidder is not going to get the job because we don't like him. We tried to throw him in prison, but that didn't work. We thought he wasn't going to be around this long, but here he is. I guess the next step is discovery. All right. Let's see. All right. I think, and then there's breach of contract. I'm not going to go into all this. I'll post it so you can see it. I'm done. I just, you get it, right? You see what, do you think that, WMBB is going to report this properly? Or do you think WMBB is going to continue their toxic propaganda against its own community? You know, news outlets have public trust too. As a journalist, I consider that I have a public trust. I've tried to earn the trust so that, you know, if I say it and show it, I believe it. I might be wrong. I'm not a straight news reporter. I'm a watchdog. I'm an analyst. I'm a commentator, all of which falls under the big umbrella of journalism. And sometimes the truth hurts me. It rarely helps me. I mean, I think the truth always helps all of us because that's where we need to be, even if it's ugly. But damn, to watch WMBB violate public trust and actually poison its own community while saying Panhandle Strong, which is Mayor Mark Sheldon's nonprofit. How much did they pay WMBB to say that? Man, can more people get hip with this and clear the city out since Sheriff Tommy Ford won't do it and the FBI won't do it? I guess it's up to the voters. Sometimes the good people just have to do it themselves, evidently. before I stroke out, I just cannot believe this world. I've got to thank the Unknown Patriot, of course, for your support, and also to all of you who crowdfund me with that little tip, the $5, at least $5 a month. And those of you who give more, thank you. And you can support the show at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. You can quit at any time. It's easy and it's anonymous. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I've got too much to tell you, but I'll keep bringing you what I find out.